Today I'm going to be making easy turtle bars. There's a picture of the turtle bars. This is from the Woodland Creek Salted Caramel Recipe book. This was sent to us from Georgianne, so thank you very much, Georgianne. This book is actually put out by Publishers Clearinghouse. The first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and it says spray a 9 by 13 inch baking pan with nonstick cooking spray. You can do that, however, if you have parchment paper, I like to use parchment paper. So the ingredients you're gonna need, you need one package, about 15 ounces of chocolate cake mix. You can use any brand you want. This is a 15.25 ounce. I'm gonna use that whole thing, but any chocolate cake mix you want. Then you need 1 stick of melted butter, a 1/4 cup of milk, 1 cup or 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 1 cup of chopped pecans, and those need to be divided, so I will be dividing those. 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 jar or 12 ounces of caramel ice cream topping. Now you see some of this is missing because I used it for another recipe, but that's why I bought this brand of caramel topping, because this is actually a 16.6 ounce jar, and I knew that I would have enough to make this recipe.
And we warmed it up in the microwave just to make it.
Yes, it's been in the refrigerator, so to get it like this, very liquidy, you need to, heat it up in the microwave. So the first thing you want to do is you want to combine your cake mix, butter, and milk. You want to take half of this mixture, so I guess you just eyeball it and put it in the bottom of your pan. So this is gonna spread. I'm gonna use my fingers because this is gonna be very thin. So now we're gonna put this in the oven and let it bake for 8 minutes, and then we'll be back. This was in the oven for 8 minutes. Now you want to sprinkle your chocolate chips over your crust.
Looks like a pan of pudding.
It does look like pudding. And then we're only going to use half of the pecans. So half of these pecans. But I do like to try to get some in every bite. I probably used a little bit more than half. That's okay. And then we're going to take our salt and we're going to sprinkle it in here. Now if you want to pour it out and do it in a bowl, you can. I'm just doing it in the jar. And we're going to turn this into salted caramel. And then you want to drizzle this. It's gonna be a 12 ounce jar, but I'm gonna use this entire jar. Drizzle it over the top. So now you want to take your remaining batter, and it says drop spoonfuls of the batter on top. Now on top of that, you sprinkle with your remaining pecans. And I think it's gonna fall right down in between all this anyway and end up with the rest of the pecans, because it didn't tell you to flatten that out at all. So I'm wondering how that's gonna cook, because these pecans are literally falling in with all the other ones. They're not staying on top. Maybe they're supposed to stay. Maybe I should press them into the tops of there. It's probably supposed to be on top of that. There we go. Definitely get some in there now. Okay, and now this is gonna go back in the oven for 18 minutes or until the top springs back when lightly touched. This is how the brownies look straight out of the oven, and I am glad that I took those pecans and stuck them in there, because if I hadn't, they would have just rolled off the sides and you wouldn't have seen the pecans at all. So that would be my tip for you, is when it says to add that half cup, then squish them into the top. But anyway, you're supposed to let this cool completely before cutting them. Okay, these look delicious. They definitely could have cooled off longer, but we wanted to go ahead and try them.
We like stuff warm.
I would rather have a warm, gooey brownie than one that's at room temperature.
It does kind of remind you of a brownie kind of flavor.
Yes. It and the flavor is going to vary a little bit. Whether you use the semi-sweet chocolate, you could use milk chocolate chips, also whatever brand of caramel you buy, because we use that Mrs. Richardson's. Smucker's also sells caramel.
Mm-hmm. That's good. It's very sweet, don't get me wrong, but it's not as sweet as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the cake mix and the chips bring the sweetness down a little bit and make it a little bit more darker chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
But
I also think it's that caramel specifically too, because I used, there was another recipe out of this book where I used like 5 tablespoons of that caramel. And at the time that I used it, I thought, that doesn't strike me as being near as sweet as the Smucker's.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying it depends. You know, when you buy yours, you're only going to need a 12-ounce jar. So you could go ahead and buy the Smucker's, because I think it was right at 12 ounces. I needed more than 12 ounces because I was making something else out of this recipe book. So all I did when I shopped was I looked and saw who has a bigger jar. And that was a bigger jar, so that's why I bought it. But I do think the Smucker's is sweeter.
Yeah, because this one doesn't come off as really, not that, like I said, not that it's not sweet. It's super, super
sweet.
It
is sweet.
I do like it, but it does remind me a lot of a brownie that has caramel pecans in it.
Yeah, I called it brownie because that's what it looks like, and that is kind of how it tastes.
Yeah, it comes across as a brownie.
But
it's very good though.
It was very good, very easy to make. You can taste the pecans, and you get the texture of the pecans.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's delicious. They do not give, some of the instructions in this book tell you how to store them. Some don't. This is one of those that it does not give you any kind of storing instructions. Some of them will say put it in the freezer or whatever. If you want to freeze these, you absolutely can. My sister freezes everything, and she takes it out later and she says it's always perfect. So if you want to freeze them, you can freeze them. For us, we usually just put them in a pan with a lid and leave them on the counter and then get them as we want.
Yeah, plus there's nothing in here like eggs or anything, so.
No, exactly. So these should be okay to just cover and then enjoy whenever you want. But if you're not going to be eating them soon, then yes, I would put them in the freezer and they should be fine for a couple months anyway. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.